Spontaneity. It was not unusual for Philip to suddenly become friendly with total strangers. Once in a while, he met someone that simply had that inexplicable magical spark that connected with him. Jokes would become absolutely natural and flow flawlessly. The dialogue, as it often was, would spirit from one subject to another till someone or something broke it. His melancholy in private could not be reconciled with his sporadic expressions of sanguine behavior. It was even more pronounced when the other party drove the conversation. The other party was often a lady, middle-aged, young, married, single, pretty, not so pretty. It didn't matter. What mattered was the spark. Gazelle West Africa had built a reputation for comfortable bus transport across the region. Their 8 to 10 hour drives from Lagos to Accra were the viable alternative for those who had class but could not afford a flight ticket or simply wanted to enjoy the West African coastline. Zainab had the spark. She glowed right from the moment she stepped off the bus. 5'7", flawless dark skin, perfectly shaped set of teeth. When she smiled, her eyes glowed and she exposed them, dazzling white. She wore a TM shirt with thick lilac stripes. It looked quite new. She definitely looked slightly improved when compared with the picture in Philip's memory. He ignored the voice. What could he do now? Send her away? Pay for a hotel room for her? Move to one of his friends' houses? What could he possibly do at this point? Hassan's call broke into his thoughts. He picked up at the second ring. He kept the conversation short, telling him Zainab was in the washroom. He would speak to her early in the morning. Zainab was out in about 5 minutes. She looked around at the living room again. Light blue walls, almost bare. Just a cheap painting hanging over the television, which sat on a piece of elaborate furniture specially designed for electronics. The curtains were rich blue with some silver patterns all over. She admired them. The floor was very good quality marble with a thick Persian rug at the center. The large sofa could sit 5. It seemed it was a combined piece made up of one 3-seater and a 2-seater joined at a 90-degree angle. 2 other chairs leaned adjacent to the door, separated by a glass side stool. She walked over to the first chair and sat, sinking into the warm chair. Accra seemed a bit cold at night. Philip had turned on the television, and she turned her eyes that way after taking a glance at him. Zainab assumed her position as Madame of the Ezani residence during Philip's week out of town. She had begun mingling with friends from her university, and some were coming home with her in groups, both male and female. She was never one to refrain from fraternizing with anyone who was willing. She simply loved affection. She didn't feel emotionally bound to anyone, not even Philip. She was free. She got introduced to Erobosa Enebuwa very quickly during one of those times when they had to make payments at the bank, and they both caught on to each other very quickly. Erobosa was the typical Nigerian diva from Benin, Edo State. Reckless, carefree, naturally smart, stunningly attractive, but totally uninterested in any form of romantic relationship with even a tinge of commitment. She just wanted to have fun with life. She had managed to convince Zainab to let her visit on the next Saturday. Their time together was ecstatic for Zainab. She laughed her hardest during their conversations. Then it got serious.
So do you love him? Love who? Mother Teresa. Philip, in whose house thou livest in sin. Oh, get serious. That's not an answer. Babe, forget that side. Oh, see your face don't turn red. You love him. Well, I wish you well. Hope he loves you too. And how is he in bed? What? Oh, please, get real, Zainab. Share with me. I have experience. I can help you.
Zainab was surprisingly embarrassed. As sanguine as she wasn't really accustomed to speaking about her sexual experiences with such casualness. Such discussions brought up memories of her past, which made her withdraw. There was so much hurt hidden behind the sunshine of her smiles, hurt that had created within her such restraint that it was amazing how easily she fell into Philip's arms. Dawood was well known to be the man after God's heart, one of the greatest kings of Israel by conquest. His fame spread throughout his generation as a champion of faith, starting from his victory over a giant probably twice his height. He was the most loved king of Israel, turning distressed, in debt, and discontented fellows into mighty men of valor. Even today, Dawood is a significant reference point to Jews, Christians, and Muslims. Yet in his moment of idleness, what was initially an unwise act in search of fleeting pleasure, a temporary sensual, visual gratification, grew into an adulterous affair of weeks, and eventually into a carefully planned murder executed right at the battlefront when the king discovered the woman was pregnant. Uriah was a foreigner, but he was obviously more disciplined and more committed than Dawood to Israel's victory in the battle, and thus died in it. Is Dawood worth forgiving? The next day, he managed to catch up with Miss Botchway and her daughter after service, and they had a long chat as he narrated his story again with much discomfort and shame. He did leave out the gory details, and especially left out the fact that he had repeated the sin just a few days earlier. It was too shameful.
The way you give these accounts, I get the impression that you believe it is all Zainab's fault,
she commented. Philip stared at her slightly wrinkled face. She smiled gently and continued.
You didn't say so, but that may be how you feel. You are the Holy One, and all the ladies are targeting you because you are well off. That may not be the case, you know.
She allowed him to ponder over her statement, then continued.
I wish I could speak with her too. And you must realize, Philip, that there is a world of difference between a request for forgiveness and actual repentance. We can ask for forgiveness and be very emotional about it. We cry and wail and make promises and pledges, but the very next day we repeat the sin. It is called a besetting sin. The primary way to deal with it is radical repentance. Sometimes radical repentance means removing permanently the source of our trouble, even if it hurts deeply. Remember what Jesus said, "If thy right hand offend thee, cut it off." Let's read it. Matthew 5:29.
He also recalled Uchechi, who had threatened to leave the fellowship if he ever spoke to her about the way she dressed again. Even Ngozi, a fellow member of the fellowship exco, had ranted about his bringing guilt on her when he raised a few issues.
Can you take away guilt like Christ?
She had asked. House rules were required here, but he did not know how Zainab was going to react. He walked out of the bedroom, and just then, Zainab was coming out of hers, carrying her shower bag and still clad in a large white towel. This time, there were no bra straps. She walked past him without saying anything, but she heard his breath and could have felt it ruffle the air across her shoulder. He heard her laugh in the bathroom after turning on the shower. 10:30 p.m. It seemed like one of those days Philip preferred would not end too quickly. Local TV was boring as usual. He had never been too enthusiastic about DSTV. Or maybe it was just another manifestation of his tendency to defer decisions to the near future, which always approached very slowly. He surfed a few stations and then let it rest on a late-night movie, half considering his planned dialogue with Zainab. She walked into the living room and sat next to him, clad in her jean shorts and black vest. She leaned forward with her elbows on her thighs, shoulders square. She turned to him without moving her torso.
What's on TV? Movie.